Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. There have been some pretty interesting developments in the weather models and the general weather forecast over the last couple of days, and it potentially brings the risk of a colder, perhaps even wintry spell of weather to affect the UK and Ireland perhaps towards the end of the month. However, this is a very low confidence, high uncertainty forecast, but still I thought I'd just update you guys just because there's a potential things could get relatively interesting. But we'll start off by kind of looking at the weather models. So here is the GFS model, kind of one of the main ones that we like to use for the medium range, and as you can see here, the very brief cold spell which has been forecast for a few days now is now going to happen over the next kind of 2 or 3 days, with some cold air affecting kind of Scotland, eastern England, brought in by that northerly flow, as you can see on this map. Not much in the way of snow because the air is just not cold enough, and also there's not a lot of moisture for actually kind of showers to develop. Still could be some kind of rain showers across parts of eastern England during Friday, and also the risk of snow showers across parts of northern Scotland during Thursday night and Friday morning, as you can see here, but no significant snowfall. And for most, it's just going to be feeling cold in that northerly wind, chilly, perhaps some frost around as well. But the main interest then starts to develop during the week following the weekend, this weekend. So as you can see here, we have this low pressure system, a fairly kind of weak, disorganized low pressure system. But what does happen is it generally drifts in this direction over the course of a few days, as you can see here, and then it kind of merges slightly with this low pressure system down here, and eventually creates a low to the south. And as I've mentioned before, the wind always rotates anti-clockwise around low pressure systems, so like this. And if you think about it, if you're pulling in a wind like that and you've got a low there, that's pulling in an easterly flow. An easterly flow at this time of year is generally pretty cold. And I'll just illustrate that right away with the 850 hectopascal temperature map. And just a quick reminder, this is the temperature at 1.5 kilometers above the ground. So generally a pretty good indicator of the air mass that we're experiencing, but don't think of this as the surface temperature forecast, because it will always be higher at the surface by kind of depending, but generally within 5 to 10 degrees higher. But as you can see here, what I was talking about with that low shifting to the south, and then it brings in, if this did occur, which is a big if, which I'll get into in a second, but if it did occur, brings in a cold easterly airflow with some very chilly air. It would be, like I said, feeling properly cold, especially at the time of year, and also would be bringing the risk of snow showers to eastern areas. And hypothetically, there's not much kind of point looking at this and taking any sort of forecast from this stage onwards, for kind of from December onwards. But hypothetically, in this model run, that cold does stick around for a very long time. So definitely the potential for something interesting. But the main interest at this stage is within the kind of end of November to beginning of December timeframe, because after that the uncertainty decreases. But just looking at the other models, I'll show you the icon model here. You can see we have a similar type of thing developing there, with that low pressure system moving in like this and drifting to the southeast. And it's worth saying that these kind of lows, they're often not very well organized. They're often kind of quite hard to forecast the strength, so the intensity, and also the track. And this often has big implications for the forecast, because if this kind of moves very slightly in a different direction to kind of what the models currently depict, which is kind of like that, then what that can bring is it can disrupt the general weather pattern. It can have a knock-on effect, and it can really kind of stop any cold coming through. And that's not to say that is going to happen, it's just something to be aware of, that naturally in these kind of forecasts we have a lot of uncertainty. And right now I'm just kind of showing you the models and explaining that, as opposed to actually making a proper forecast. But you can see similar thing here, we get that low, it then moves to the southeast, and then eventually we do bring in a easterly airflow on the icon with some, by the way, this is the German model. I don't often show it, but this is the German model. And as you can see here, it brings in a cold easterly airflow, which would be bringing snow showers to much of the eastern UK, and perhaps into parts of Northern Ireland and Ireland as well. And then eventually that turns into more of a kind of a slack northerly / northeasterly, similar to what we had last December, with high pressure to the north and low pressure to the east. And it's worth saying that the kind of general pattern does actually favour kind of high pressure somewhere to the west of the UK. So it does look like it's going to be settled and even cold, we can say that with confidence. But the main uncertainty is if we do get this properly properly cold and even snowy easterly slash northeasterly airflow. Just giving you an idea of that kind of point of the uncertainty in the exact direction, if I show you the Canadian model, you can see here we do actually get initially a cold northeasterly, which does actually bring some snow to not a very significant snow risk, but you can see same evolution of that low pressure system moving to the southeast like that, and then we do get a cold northeasterly, which is actually, like I just, sorry, kind of repeating myself here, but does bring the risk of snow fairly widely. But then notice how it turns into a bit more of a northwesterly, though it is worth saying this is the end of the run, so uncertainty is very high. But that being said, just running through those three models, you can see there is actually a fairly good consensus on that low drifting to the south and bringing in a kind of easterly, northeasterly airflow on the north side, which basically is into parts of the UK, basically as displayed here by the GFS. And so usually, because we've got fairly good model consensus, I would say there's a high confidence on this happening. But these setups, like I mentioned, they're always very notorious to forecast. We've had setups like these where it was looking really kind of cold and snowy until 3 days away, and it all basically vanished, and we ended up with a basically mediocre, nothing kind of cold spell. But I will show you the ensemble. This is the GFS ensemble, and it is looking fairly promising actually. Haven't seen, I mean, to be fair, the winter is just starting, but haven't seen an ensemble like this in a fairly long time. But as you can see here, it does bring in a northeasterly into the end of November there with cold air, not quite as cold as some of the models. And then also notice how we do also get high pressure building in to the northwest, and then it turns into more of a northwesterly there. So the initial signs are looking promising, but the uncertainty is very, very high. And just to show you this in a kind of visual form, you can see initially we do think that, by the way, this is the ensemble plot for London, so each of these different lines represents a different model solution from the American model. They kind of has the main model, and then within it kind of around 30 different sub-models, which are all shown on this chart here. And you can see initially the lines are quite close together, and that's showing high confidence, and that is on our kind of mini cold spell through the weekend. But the main area of interest is through kind of the 29th onwards, this sort of region. And you can see there is a lot of spread, so there is still a lot of uncertainty, and it's perfectly possible that we do get one of these kind of mild solutions, as you see here. Definitely no snow threat, definitely not that cold. But the general clustering of the ensembles is slightly to the south. Bear in mind, this is the 1.5 kilometer or 850 hectopascal temperatures, and generally we're looking at below -5 for cold risk. And the white line, which is the mean, so the average, is kind of hovering around there, suggesting that there is still uncertainty, but there is a slight bias to a slightly colder outcome in this time. And you can see that that kind of bias remains into December, but like I said, the uncertainty really increases there. But there is definitely a signal for colder weather. And similarly, as you can see, this is the basically visual representation, kind of the map representation of what I'm showing you right here. And you can also see here the ensembles, if I get the right chart, there we go. The ensembles do also have a fair few members, so each of these different numbers is the different kind of mini models within the main models I was talking about. And you can see we do have a fairly strong signal for high pressure building across Scandinavia, which brings in a easterly slash northeasterly, and then also kind of develops into a kind of northeasterly, and then kind of northerly. But like I said, there is a lot of uncertainty kind of into December, and even then you can see there's lots of numbers scattered around, which shows a large spread in different solutions. And then finally, let's see if the European model has run yet. And you can see actually pretty similar thing here, maybe more of a northeasterly, but the exact details are kind of irrelevant. The main evolution is the same, with that low pressure system moving to the southeast and then bringing in a cold kind of flow on the north side of that, like that, with the risk of snow showers in places. So is there high confidence in the forecast? No. Can we say for sure if it's going to be cold and snowy? No. But do the early signs of a colder and perhaps wintry spell exist? Does it look the early signs look promising? Yes. So I will keep you updated, but to have a model consensus where basically all the models are favouring this kind of solution is a fairly good sign at this stage. a lot can change within a week, so bear that in mind. But if you are in the hope of something wintry and colder, there is hope for you, and I will keep you up to date. But thank you so much for watching, and have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.